Welcome Dr. Sunil Kumar onto the stage. Actually, இவருடைய கரிக்குலம் வைட்டே நான் வாசித்தேன் அப்படின்னா சாருக்கு ஸ்பீச் கொடுக்க நேரம் இருக்காது. கிட்டத்தட்ட இட் ரன்ஸ் இன் டு பேஜஸ் அவ்வளோ இருக்குது. ஸோ அதை வந்து நான் ரொம்ப ப்ரீஃபாக அவர் என்னென்ன இதுவரை பண்ணியிருக்காரு அப்படிங்கிறத ஒரு ப்ரீஃப் இன்ட்ரடக்ஷன் கொடுக்குறேன். அண்ட் வி ஆர் ஆல் ஸ்டூடெண்ட்ஸ், யூ ஆர் ஆல் ரியலி பிளஸ்ட் டு ஹேவ் லெக்சர்ஸ் ஆஃப் சச் கிரேட் எமினன்ஸ் ஹியர். அதனால் ப்ளீஸ் மேக் யூஸ் ஆஃப் இட். திஸ் வில் பி a great eye opener for you in the futures to come. Actually, sir he is a PhD in pharmacognosy and chemistry, interdisciplinary studies from University of Madras. Senior research fellowship in ICMR வாங்கியிருக்காரு. Awards, see Young Scientific Research Award from the Government of Karnataka, Dr. P.A. Sethi Award for Best Papers on Traditional Medicines. இது போக 700 lakhsக்கு மேலான ஒரு ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸ்க்கு கோஆர்டினேட் பண்ணியிருக்காரு இதுவரை. அண்ட் இஸ் அ பிரின்சிபல் இன்வெஸ்டிகேட்டர் இன் மெனி ப்ராஜெக்ட்ஸ். பப்ளிகேஷன்ஸ் பார்த்தாலே 50 மோனோகிராஃப்ஸ் இதுவரை பப்ளிக் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. அண்ட் 49 இன் ICMR குரூப்ஸ் அண்ட் 1 இன் ஆயுஷ் ஃபார்மகோபியா. 25 நேஷனல் செமினார்ஸ், 7 இன்டர்நேஷ்னல் செமினார்ஸ் அண்ட் 14 வெபினார்ஸ் ப்ரெசென்ட் பண்ணியிருக்காரு. ஒர்க் ஷாப்ஸ் மட்டும் 17 ஒர்க் ஷாப் he has gone as an invited speaker. And editorial member of broad number of boards, traditional medicine research, executive director of Journal of Ayurveda and Medical Sciences. Presently is working as research officer of head of the Department of Pharmacognosy, CCRS, Chennai. And one more important thing, right now he is establishing a pharmacognosy laboratory with advanced facility like DNA coding, barcoding, phytochemical screening, and a good raw drug repository of herbal and Siddha drugs. So this is great speciality. With great pride we welcome Dr. Sunil Kumar to deliver his lecture onto the dais.
Good afternoon everyone. With due respects to my senior colleagues from Central Council for Research in Siddha, authorities of SEED, officers from National Medicinal Plant Board, and my respected in charge Dr. P. Satyarajeshwaran sir. I thank my previous speaker, my senior friend Dr. D. Arvind, who gave a good introduction to what I am going to cover in my talk. So, as a botanist, as a pharmacognosist, I am into, in the past 15 years, I am into identification of raw drugs. As a raw drug which is available in the markets. If you are a taxonomist, you will get fresh plant material with the flowers. So you can for different floras and identify the drugs. But when you are given with the material which is dried form, it's not that easy, because in dried drugs there are no keys, only your experience will speak. If you have seen many of drugs in their dried form, then easily by looking at a drug you will say yes, this is that drug. Otherwise you have to do further procedures. You have to take help of a microscope and then identify. If you see the scenario in the market, you can find that many of the drugs which are sold in the market are not up to the quality. Either they are totally different materials, or they are full of foreign matters, or they have a lot of extraneous matters. Either they are infected with fungus, they are too old, or they are exhausted. The material comes as a drug, but there are no active principles in it. It is already extracted. So most of the material which comes in the market are already exhausted. The active principles have been removed from it, and the spent material is sold in the market. So when we go and ask for a material from the market, there are a lot of chances that you end up getting a material which is not up to the quality. So that is the main reason why we are not getting the desired efficacy from our traditional medicines. Most of us, we depend on marketed raw drugs only, and especially those scholars who start doing their projects in their PG or PhD levels, they just go to market, buy something, use it in the name using which you have purchased it from market. So what happens is, most of the cases you end up buying something which is not the exact botanical source which is intended for use in the particular formulation. So here I'll give some examples which I have seen in my past 15 years experience. Very few of them, not all. I have just covered only those things which are important, which are very commonly seen marketed as adulterated, and some of the pharmacopoeial tests which we perform to identify or to detect that particular adulteration practice. Basically, most of the times when a drug comes to your hand, we do a simple test, that is just see the color, odor test, that is a organoleptic examination, which is the most simplest way of identifying a plant material. So if you are experienced, if you have seen lot of materials already, just by looking at it or just by seeing the color, just by seeing the perceiving the odor or taste, you will be able to identify them. This is the most simplest technique, but the thing is, you should observe more drugs and you should be aware of its external features or color or odor or taste. That is the simplest way of identifying drug. You can identify a drug just by organoleptic examination, but what happens is, whether the active principle of the drug is there in that or not, that cannot be judged with just having an organoleptic examination. So in such cases, if we have any doubt in the organoleptic examination or just by a macroscopic examination, next we go to a microscopic examination, where we take a help of a microscope, see different internal structures, see different internal contents, cell contents, and identify them. Otherwise, we also do some chemical tests and detect the exact quality of a material. So establishing an identity of every plant material is very important. Most of the times we don't get desired result because we go wrong in identification. That is a major problem in the herbal medicine sector. Identification is going wrong, or otherwise you are using a drug which is not of superior quality. So I'll just share some examples of drugs which are commonly marketed as adulterated. And if you see this, if you see this photo, it's not so clear. So this photo is Kabasura Kudineer purchased from Trivandrum. The ingredients, all 15 ingredients, little bit of added to a newspaper, and it is given as Kabasura Kudineer ingredient. So what about the lead which comes from the ink used for printing? Lead is one of the toxic heavy metal which should not be there in any drug. And if you see, many of the drugs in this are infected with the fungus. They are either old, too old, or it is totally infected with the fungus. So these kind of observation is what to be trained to a upcoming scholar in Ayush systems. So they should know how to evaluate the quality of a drug. You should not blindly buy something and use for your research. You do a preliminary analysis by yourself and always get it authenticated from a laboratory and then go for your research. Usually it happens, I have seen a lot of practices where people finish their research and then come for getting an authentication certificate. At that time when we say, no, this is not that drug, you have gone wrong, you have used something else, they are in a problem. So please make sure whenever you are doing any research on herbal medicine, first get it authenticated and then start your research. So here I'll just brief up some examples based on my experience so far. I have briefed out what are the challenges for a pharmacognosis. So I have said that as a botanist, if you get a fresh plant material, it's easy. But in our case, all the time we get dried ones. All the time it is a dried drug. And root means every root looks almost same. If it is a bark, every bark looks almost same. But it's only the experience, a good pharmacognosis by his experience, his observation can make out this is not that, this is this. This could be the substitute, this could be adulteration. So by practice only you will be able to guide and authenticate a plant material. So as a pharmacognosis, what comes in his purview is name of the drug, its habitat, what are the collection practices for it, whether it is cultivated or it is occurring naturally, what are its macroscopic features, what are its microscopic features, what are its chemical constituents, what are its therapeutic actions, and what are the uses and what are the adulterations. So a good pharmacognosis, if you give one drug to him, you should be able to describe all these aspects of that particular drug. So that is the role of a good pharmacognosis. So traditionally pharmacognosis is recognized as a vital part of drug development. So when any drug is developed, a pharmacognosis can give a good input on about it. So medicinal value of many plants offer great insight into development of new drugs. So when a new drug is developed, a pharmacognosis can give a good lead. Establishing the current identity of dried raw materials, that is what challenging and how it differs from a normal taxonomical identification of plants when it comes to pharmacognosy. So we always get dried materials, so identifying them is a big challenge. For common drugs like Elaka, Malli, these kind of things we don't need any expertise, but there are many samples in the market, many raw drug material which you use in our system of medicine, they all need expertise to identify properly. So even my previous speaker also gave a gist how we evaluate a drug. So first evaluation is done for its identity. So first we have to establish the identity of the material, then we have to see the quality of the material. So once identity is established, that doesn't mean that the drug is okay, it cleared all tests. Identity can be same. You can establish the identity may be correct, but its active constituents should be assessed, whether it has the enough quantity of active principles required for that as a quality for that material. So if it is an alkaloid, whether it contains that much quantity of alkaloid, if it is a volatile oil containing drug, whether it contains that much percentage of active constituent in it, that has to be checked. So we need to do some quality checking before passing the drug for its quality, for its authenticity. Then we have to check whether it is pure. Most of the cases you end up a material which is mixed with so many things. Either it will be plant part which is not official in the pharmacopoeia. If it is a leaf, for example Adathoda, if it is a leaf is to be used in the medicine, but if you go and buy from market, it's full of stem, root, etc. So that is not official. If you check the pharmacopoeial monograph, there is a limit for foreign matter. So if it is a leaf, there is a limit of 2%, 5% foreign matter, stem or whatever is permitted. But if you get 90% of unofficial part and only 10% of official part, how do you expect quality of that particular material? So this is a common practice. I have been seeing the materials which are supplied to most of the herbal pharmacies. When they supply a sample like 100 gram, they supply good material. When we pass the sample, the bulk supply will be always 90% unofficial part and 10% official part. that we cannot expect the same quality. So foreign matter comes in the form of soil, some other plant part, some other plants. For example, in Nadathoda some other grass will be there, some other plant materials will be there. So that should also be checked. They all falls under the category of foreign matter. So they are all not a part of the official source of the drug. And then safety. So identity is established. You have established that its chemical constituents are correct. You have found that there are no foreign organic matter. There are no foreign matter in that. But what about the safety? It should not have pesticide. It should not have any heavy metal contaminants. It should not have any microbial contents. It should not have any aflatoxins. It should not have any radioactive contaminants. So all these things should be checked out. Mostly we end up just finding the drug whether it is authentic or not, that's all. We don't go for quality, purity, safety checking. So all these are part of developing standard for a pharmacopoeia. If you refer any pharmacopoeial monograph for a drug, you will see all these tests as a quality parameter. But do we comply to that? Do we check that and use our drug? Do we pass our drug with all these criteria? That is lacking. So we should do a thorough analysis of your drug, then only use that particular raw drug for preparation of medicine. So efficacy is dependent on all the above. So if you are expecting efficacy from a material, it depends on all these factors. Otherwise you will not get required efficacy of that particular material. So for a global acceptance of any medicine, it should be undergoing all these tests, and then only efficacy will come. If efficacy is there, then only we will get global acceptance for our medicine. So biggest challenge on quality is adulteration, substitution and unsafe contaminants. This is a major concern in every herbal raw drug market. So whenever you go and buy any drug, it is either adulterated or it is substituted. There are different reasons why it is substituted. There are reasons why it is adulteration is there. Then there are always unsafe contaminants in it. So we should take care of all these aspects. Only then we can expect efficacy from a plant drug formulation. So these are some other concern in the medicinal plant trade. There are diminished source of official drugs due to depletion of forest cover. We are raising so much of concrete forests so that we don't have land where medicinal plants used to come. Now we are totally dependent on cultivation. So cultivational practices may not yield exact quality of wild material. The potency may be less, but physically it will have a lot of, by weight it will be more, but active constituent wise it will be less. So these issues are there. Then rise in popularity and hence demand. The herbal medicine, whenever we say Ayurveda, Siddha as a label, there is a demand, there is a rise in demand. But problem is there is no enough supply. There is no enough raw drugs to meet out the quantity of medicine to be prepared to meet out the demand. And there are so much of wrong practices in herbal drug marketing. To make profit, because of there are lot of demand, there are lot of correct practices also. This adulteration, substitution and many other factors are there. Because of that, we are not able to get desired efficacy from our medicines. So generally when we do assessment of the quality of material, first we do botanical identification. So as I said, as a pharmacognosis, we get always dried materials. So first we will do a botanical identification. Then we do a physical assessment. There are different tests to do the physical assessments. Then we do a chemical analysis using different techniques to find out the active constituents present in it. Then we have to find out biological and non-biological contaminants. Then it should also undergo a toxicity evaluation. So every raw material should undergo these many tests, and then only we can judge the quality of a plant material. So there are many reasons why there are wrong botanicals coming up in the market. One could be careless collection by unskilled collector. So the collection should be done by expert who knows the botanical drug, who know exactly the taxonomical key for that particular species. Just going to market without expertise of a experienced taxonomist and collecting it will lead to wrong identification of drug. Less knowledge about the authentic source, confusion in the species identity. There can be one plant with which is there more than one species. The same genera, more than one species looks same. In that case also we may go wrong. Absence of taxonomic key characters to differentiate the two plant sources. Deficiency of the authentic species. Most of the authentic species are not available now. So commercially important plant materials have almost perished. So there are no natural sources of plant materials. We should depend only on cultivated materials hereafter. Most of the plant materials which are used in high demand, which are used in high scale, have gone rare, endangered. So they are not at all available from collection from field anymore. So there are many practices which is done intentionally to make profit from raw drug industry. So what are the practices which are intentionally done is manufactured substances. Some substances which are manufactured using starch or using dough. So something like that is manufactured and used instead of a authentic plant material. Then inferior commercial varieties. So one variety is superior in quality, that is sold for very high price, and there is another variety which is sold cheap. So generally people will prefer the one which comes in low cost. So there also we cannot expect the required efficacy from the drug. Then these exhausted drugs. This is a very major practice in herbal drug industry, where they will exhaust it. So the drug is extracted, dry material is extracted, active principles removed, and the drug without active principles or half the quantity of active principle is sold in the market. So most of the times in ginger, clove, they will extract the oil from it and the spent ginger is sold, spent clove is sold. Many of the materials which have volatile oil constituents, they are exhausted. They remove the active principles and then it is sold in the market. So after extraction, the physical look of the material will not change. Only that active constituents will be reduced. So that's why exhausted materials are also sold in the market. Superficially similar, inferior natural substances. Looking same, they look same. Some woods, some roots, some barks, they look same, but botanically they are not same thing. So in such cases also we can't expect efficacy. Vegetative part of same plant. For example, leaf is the official source, but root, stem, other flowers, fruit, seeds are also traded in the market. So that is also a intentional practice to make profit from herbal sources. Then some toxic materials, some cases, some metals, some stones, etc. also added to the material, so that costly materials, if you add a little bit of some heavy particles to that, like soil, iron, it will increase the weight, and that's how it's an intentional practice of adulteration. Then adulteration of powders. So in case of most of the drugs are sold in the powder form. It's a pure form of intentional adulteration, because when it is powdered, from the powder active principles can be extracted, and when it is powder you can add something else to it. 50% of required material and 50% something else. If it is added and sold, we are not in a position to identify them. Of course, microscopically we can differentiate, we can identify plant materials if it is adulterated as powder. Then some synthetic principles. For example, some chemical constituent which smells like sandalwood, volatile oil is extracted and on the surface some sandals, oil smelling chemicals are sprayed. So that practice also very common. So that also to be taken care. And unintentionally there are many reasons, mainly because for one botanical, there are a lot of other botanical sources. Substitution and adulterants, because some are officially accepted substitutes, but some are adulterants. So for one botanical source, there are more than one plant material. In that case, it's unintentional, unknowingly so many other plant materials also coming in the market. So controversy in the source, if the raw drug source is controversial, then lack of knowledge about the authentic plant, non-availability of the authentic plant, similarity in morphology or aroma, careless collection. So these can be unintentional also. So not with the intention to make a profit, but it happens. Because of that, there are adulteration in the market. So these are the techniques which we can use to detect these kind of malpractices. First thing is, I have explained, organoleptic analysis can be done. If you still have doubt with the organoleptic examination, then we can go for a macroscopic analysis. That is, what is the size, what is the shape, what is the color, what are the other descriptions of that plant part. Then you can go for a microscopic analysis. With the help of a microscope, you can see the internal structure of that particular drug by taking a section or by taking a powder form. That way you can identify. Then still, if you want to confirm the active constituent present, you can do a chemical analysis. There are a lot of techniques, chromatographic and spectroscopic techniques, which are also part of pharmacopoeial monograph development. We can use any of them and find out whether the drug is of the required quality or not. Then recently there is a upsurge in the use of molecular markers, molecular techniques, which is also cost effective and which has been in development. Use of molecular markers, which was there only in theories earlier, DNA based markers, now they are in practice. Even pharmacopoeias also started using these techniques in the monographs. The Indian Pharmacopoeia also started using DNA barcoding as a technique in case there is a confusion in the identification of drug. Then Indian Pharmacopoeia suggests to go for DNA barcoding. So this is also a newer development in development of standards for botanical materials. So we can use DNA based markers for exactly identifying botanical source of a plant drug. So we can just like a barcode, we can develop from DNA, we have to extract the DNA, we have to develop a barcode, and from the barcode you can identify a plant material. So we also developing a laboratory for DNA barcoding. So this is a newer technique which is coming up in the herbal drug standardization. So I have explained what is organoleptic examination. It's just based on the senses, like what is the color, odor, what is the taste. So you have to do an examination of these and you can record, and it's bit of subjective. Person to person there can be slight variation, but it is used as an important pharmacopoeial parameter to differentiate drugs. That it is macroscopy, just looking at the morphological features of the drug. Externally, how does it look? On the surface, what are the surface characters? What is the by breaking, how any sound comes? What is the surface nature of the broken surface? What is the color? So these kind of things, just by observing on naked eye, or you can use a magnifying lens. So it is also very simple, and it's a fingerprint kind of experiment, macroscopy, very simple, without needing any instrument or something. Just with a little bit experience, you can identify a plant material by macroscopically. By microscopy, this is based on internal structure. Even if it is in the powdered form, we can use this as a technique. Suppose you get a powdered form, you have to do a powder microscopy under microscope, and otherwise you have to take section and see what are the different cell layers in it, and what are the cell contents, any crystals, starch grains, volatile oil droplets, protein droplets. So these things can be observed under microscope, and we can identify any plant material. The microscopic feature of every drug is signature to it. It's just like our fingerprint. Every plant material has a signature anatomical feature. So that can be used as a technique to differentiate drugs if you have any doubt in the botanical source. So it's microscopy is very simple. We have to cut section, observe, prepare a slide and observe under microscope. In case it is given as a powder, you have to just mount a pinch of powder under microscope and see different internal structures. So here, if it is a related species, even if it is a same genus, two species, just by taking a section, you can just find out that there is a difference in the anatomical feature. So you need not do too much of anatomical for that. Just by taking a gross section through the midrib, you can differentiate two species. So this technique can be used even if it is in a dried form. So you have got a small piece of dried plant material, soak in water, take a section and observe. Easily you can, just by looking the signature anatomical feature, you can differentiate two species. So that is the advantage of microscopic examination. So here Bacopa moneri and Centella sciatica, you can, even if you fail identifying it macroscopically they are two different, very easy to differentiate Bacopa moneri and Centella sciatica. You get only, suppose you get very small, only one piece. In that case also you can use microscopy as a technique and differentiate. So this is one example of Vidari. This is sold in the market, a drug. The drug is sold like this. These kind of pieces are sold in the name of Vidari in the market. But this is the authentic source. But it is not very common in market. We are not able to get this material. So I examined a material from market and I found that this is the authentic Vidari section and this is a starch grains from that. But this material, when observed under microscope, shows this kind of starch which is totally different from this starch. This starch is simple grain, this starch is compound grain. So just by doing a pinch of powder under microscope, you can say no, this is not Pureria tuberosa. This can be something else. There are many starchy materials available in the market which are sold as Vidari. For example, some species of cycas, even tapioca, sweet potato, all these are sold in the market as Vidari. In Ayurveda, it is one of the important drugs which is used in so many formulations. And for natural honey, microscopy can also be used as a technique for identifying honey also, honey samples. You can see that a honey which is from natural source will have a lot of pollen grains. It will have a lot of particles, parts of honey bee. Its legs, you can see that its legs, its tongue and some trichomes from the flower. So all these things will be there under microscope if it is a original honey. But if it is a other marketed source, you can find that some sources, I don't want to reveal the brand, some brand even will not have even one single pollen grain. It is just only sugar syrup. So maybe from honey bee, but they are readily fed with the sugar, and that sugar honeybees will feed and it will make honey. So in that case there will not be pollen grains. So microscopy is an important technique to identify honey sample as well. And there are some chemical tests from which also you can differentiate natural honey from synthetic honey. And I said powder microscopy, which is also an important technique. Even if you have a mixture of 10 powders, 10 plant materials, using microscope you can identify and say this ingredient is missing. Out of 10 ingredients, one is missing or one is added in more quantity. That can be judged with the experienced microscopic view of powders. So powder, you can also do some chemical tests on the powder, and presence of particular chemical can also be like lignins, alkaloids. These can also be volatile oils, can also be tested in a powder microscopy profiling of a drug. So this is an example of powder of amalaki, nellikai, dry nellikai. So this is a signature character. So if you see powder of nellikai once under microscope, next time wherever it comes, just by looking these characters, you can say yes, this character is from nellikai. So that is the experience you need. If you are thorough, if you are looking at so many samples under microscope, you will easily identify. It's like identifying a person. So suppose we meet so many people, so many times we see someone, we easily identify them. Same type is under microscope. If you see so many times a character, you can exactly come to know, yes, this is from this botanical. Then quantitative microscopy, suppose you have fragments of leaf materials, you can differentiate plant materials just based on these techniques. There are techniques like Palisade ratio, stomatal number, stomatal index, and many other techniques which you can do for a fragment of leaf and differentiate two species like Tirunelveli senna and Alexandrian senna. Just by doing vein islet number, you can differentiate two species. Morphologically they look same, but under microscope these quantitative features are different. They look same morphologically, but these features are different because in their DNA that vein termination number is there. So this is also an important technique. Vein islet number is an important technique to differentiate drugs. Closely related drugs can be differentiated by this method. So this is how you can count Palisade ratio, vein islet number. So I am not going too much into details, but if you know these are the techniques, Palisade ratio and vein islet number are the leaf parameters which can be used as a technique to differentiate closely related species. That is enough. Then I said once you establish the identity with the microscopy, you should go with the physical evaluation. So under physical evaluation there are so many kind of tests with which you can identify exact your drug, like elasticity of fibers, viscosity of drug containing gum, swelling for mucilage, fixed oil content, melting point, and using UV light. Based on the constant present, under UV light it will give different colors. So this can also be a physical evaluation. After microscopic examination you can do these physical evaluation and identify your drug exactly what botanical it is derived from. So foreign matter is an important technique. I have said many drugs will have a lot of foreign matter in it. Of course, in pharmacopoeia it is permitted, some 2%, 3%, 5% is permitted. Every pharmacopoeial monograph says this much percentage is permitted. If it goes beyond that, it is a type of adulteration. So more than 5%, that drug cannot be passed for its quality. So determination of foreign matter is an important criteria in determining quality. You have to take some 100 gram, weigh 100 gram and pick out those foreign matters which are not derived from the drug and take the weight and find out the percentage. That is the simplest form of finding foreign matter. So this test is very important in determining quality of any herbal material. So here I have shown an example of Andrographis paniculata, which is collected from market. You can see that the three arrows shows three different foreign matter in it. One is some grass root, one is some other leaf, and another is piece of Cyprus rotundus rhizome. So from one material in a raw drug market, so many materials are dealt. So there are chances of mixing one material with another. So thoroughly you have to examine what is the foreign matter content. You have to see that it is in the limit prescribed in the pharmacopoeia, then only pass the monograph for drug for its quality. Then ash value, this is also an important technique for identifying adulteration substitution, wherein if the drug is not properly washed, it will have lot of soil, it will have sticking stand. So this is also a practice for root drugs. To increase weight, the drug is not washed properly. So 50% of weight comes from soil attached to it. So by doing an ash analysis, you can find out that the drug has a lot of foreign matter like soil, which can be determined by doing a ash value. Acid insoluble ash is also another type of ash wherein if lot of sand is there. So if you want to find out a lot of sand in underground parts like rhizome, if you see that lot of sand is sticking, acid insoluble ash will be very high. Just by looking at the value, you can say that no, this drug has lot of soil. So that is an importance of acid insoluble ash. Then this soluble extractive. Every drug, as I said, will have some secondary metabolite in it. So the percentage of secondary metabolite will vary. So this is Berberis aristata, which is sold in the market. If you buy from market, all the time you will get this type of chipped wood, because the chipping is done because they want to extract berberin from that. After berberin is extracted, that spent dry wood is marketed. So there is a high demand for the berberin, which is called as rasanjan. That is another drug which is very costly. So a wood is chipped like this, and it is extracted, alkaloid is extracted with the solvent, and then that wood is marketed, and that alkaloid is marketed separately. So this is a practice of extracting active constituents. Generally in the Berberis aristata you can see this practice. For finding out this soluble extractive is done. You can do it with the water or with the ethanol. You can find out whether the plant is already extracted or it is in its full of its concentration of active principle. And another practice is in volatile oil containing drugs. For example, ginger, clove, where volatile oil is totally extracted. Volatile oil is extracted and then only that material without volatile oil is sold. So it will not have that much potency. For look it will look same, but it will not have that much of active principle in it. So by using ether soluble extractive or fixed oil content, you can find out what is the percentage of volatile oil in it. So if it is less than the required percentage in pharmacopoeia, you can conclude that yes, this is already spent. So they have extracted the active principle and then sold. And in case a drug is not dried properly, you can do moisture analysis. That is called a loss on drying. If drug is in the fresh form, it will have a lot of moisture. So that moisture will eventually catch fungus, bacteria, and the drug will get deteriorated fast. So to find out how much percentage of water is present in the drug, we do a moisture analysis. That is also an important thing. So every pharmacopoeial requirement permits a certain quantity of moisture. More than that is not of the quality of the material. Then if specifically if any plant is there, if you want to specifically test its chemical constituent, there are different tests to identify whether alkaloid is present or not, whether glycoside is present, whether volatile oil is present or not. These specific tests can be done and you can identify the origin of a drug. So this is called a preliminary phytochemical evaluation. There are color tests. Based on the color test result, you can judge whether that chemical constituent is present or not. Then there are many sophisticated techniques like TLC, GC, HPLC, NMR. These techniques are also employed in pharmacopoeia. For herbal things, generally we do HPTLC. That is a advanced version of a TLC. Every drug will have a HPTLC chromatogram in a pharmacopoeia. So based on the chromatogram, you can identify a drug. So otherwise, other than HPTLC, we can also use HPLC or GLC or NMR, which is not there in any pharmacopoeial monograph right now, but the Chinese have started using NMR as a technique to differentiate, to identify even polyherbal formulations as well. It is also used for even estimation of quantification of active principle using NMR as a technique. I think I don't want to go too much into detail of these techniques. TLC, as you all know, a very simplest form of signature of a plant extract. If you have a plant material, you have to extract, you have to load the extract on a TLC plate. Using a solvent system, you have to run it and find out which solvent system works, separate the constituents very well, and that signature fingerprint is available in pharmacopoeias as a reference. So if you have a material, just run in the same solvent system, compare to monograph seen present in a pharmacopoeia, and find out whether that active principle pattern is there or not. So TLC is the simplest version, you don't need any instrument, but HPTLC is an automated version of a TLC. For every herbal drug, HPTLC fingerprinting is a must. I have some examples where you can specifically identify in a formulation if a drug is used, which is the drug used in a particular formulation. Suppose in case of Clitoria ternacea and Evolvulus alsinoides, these are two sources in South India and North India for in a formulation called Medhya Rasayana. So we have identified which is the raw material used. So you have a formulation in your hand, you want to check which ingredient is used. So if you have both the authentic ingredients, by using extract and TLC technique, you can find out which material, which plant material has been used in the particular formulation. Same thing in the form of in the case of Guduchi Sattva, that is the extract of Tinospora cordifolia. Here Guduchi Sattva is actually the starch obtained, Sindil Sakare, which is a starch obtained, but in the market you can see that hydroalcoholic extract of Tinospora cordifolia is marketed. So we just wanted to check whether it is actually from Tinospora cordifolia or something else. So a comparative TLC has revealed that it is from Tinospora cordifolia, but it is extract, not the starchy material. And GC is a technique used for in case you have volatile oil principle or fixed oil content in your raw drug, you can use GC as a technique. NMR, as I said, it's an advanced technique but not used in any of our pharmacopoeia so far. But in Chinese pharmacopoeias and Chinese standardization techniques, they use NMR as a newer technique in standardization of botanical drugs. And I said there are different kind of DNA based identification. There are different DNA based markers which can be used for identifying a plant from its DNA. We have to extract the DNA and use these markers and find out the botanical source. DNA barcoding is an advancement. It is used recently. Earlier it was based on markers. Barcoding is more advanced. So it is a new tool for herbal standardization. Very minor cost is involved. Species level identification is possible. We can also differentiate adulterants. We can generate barcode which can be used as a reference in future for identification of any plant material. So another newer technique is DNA meta barcoding and bar HRM, which is again advancement of barcoding. Again it is done on DNA. So this is a device which is a prototype which is developed. So this device based on barcode, which can it can even detect with a sample, a piece of botanical sample when it is kept on the receptor end of this device, it will identify exact botanical source. That the technique is based on DNA barcoding. The instrument does everything and it gives the result. That is a DNA barcoding barcode generator. Using this you can identify. So we should make barcodes for all our Ayush drugs, and then we have to feed in this device, and after that we will be able to identify the plant materials. So I'll just give some examples in the market. This is Tinospora cordifolia. Photo is not clear. The first drug is Tinospora crispa, which is a newer adulteration in the herbal drug marketing. So Tinospora crispa is added as a generally in Kerala. If you buy from Trivandrum market, you can see Tinospora crispa coming as Tinospora cordifolia. There is a recent report which says that Tinospora crispa causes liver toxicity. So there is a huge thing going in Ayush also. So people are saying Ayush drugs are not, they are toxic to liver, and we are recommending Tinospora cordifolia. But in the market, problem is Tinospora crispa is used. Because we use Tinospora crispa, this problem of toxicity. But Tinospora crispa is already reported. There are reports which says that it certainly cause liver toxicity. So this photo is not clear. I have this is a screenshot of a post from Ministry of Ayush which had photograph of Tinospora crispa instead of Tinospora cordifolia, because it looks very same, plants looks very same, and I have corrected respected Trust-Nmpb, and I have sent her newer photographs, but then they have deleted this post and posted a new post which says that reports coming Gilo is toxic is misleading, because it's not toxic. Recently here is also a report which has come very recently. Ayurvedic drugs backed by Ayush Ministry causes liver damage, says a study. This is a second study which is done in Kerala again, which says the photograph of here, again photograph is Tinospora crispa. I think they have used Tinospora crispa instead of Tinospora cordifolia. Again, I have requested ministry that they should ask the authenticity of the material which they have used. Then only they will come to know this is not Tinospora cordifolia, because they used Tinospora crispa, the toxicity has come. The toxic hepatic damage induced by a herbal medicine, Tinospora crispa, this is already reported. And to my surprise, I have purchased a material of Tinospora cordifolia from Trivandrum market. I got Tinospora crispa. So it is widely used in the market. When we are using it in Kavasura Kudinir, we should be careful not to use Tinospora crispa. And this is another substitute adulterant which is used in Kavasura Kudinir ingredient, Tragia involucrata, which is a desired drug, but Tragia plucaneti is coming in the market. So actually we should use Tragia involucrata, but Tragia plucaneti is available. So this is a market drug I have purchased that is available. Tragia plucaneti is available. And this Vattathirupi, again so many 4 type of drugs are available from the market. Siddha acuta is mentioned in formulary, but we use Cisampulus pereira is there. This is first, this one Cisampulus pereira. This is Revia hypocrateri formis. I don't know how it has come. Then this seems again Revia hypocrateri formis, but chipped wood is, material is chipped and sold as thread type material. So this I recently got Tippali. Instead of Tippali, this round Assam piper something is there, Mollissima, piper mollissima, round type of inflorescence that is available in the market as Tippali. And this is similar odor, based on similar odor, Nannari, Dicalypus hamiltoni as well as Hemidus indicus. The first one is Hemidus indicus, the other one is Dicalypus hamiltoni. Both have same odor, so both are marketed. Most commonly you will get only Dicalypus hamiltoni. Then this is cinnamomum which is we use in biryani, cinnamomum verum, the cinnamomum xylanicum, that is the original one. The first figure is original cinnamomum xylanicum, the other one is Chinese cinnamon, which also again have some liver toxicity which should not be used. And most of the places you get this as cheaper material, so people use it. So in the biryani packets also we get cinnamomum verum only, not cinnamomum cassia only, Chinese cinnamon, not cinnamomum verum. And this Embelia ripes Though pharmacopoeial monograph says Embellia ribes as a source of Vidanga, only Embellia robusta is sold. So most of 100% of the market will have only Embellia robusta. This is another drug called Coquilaxa, Hygrophila auriculata. So in the market, most of the time you get Hygrophila, another species of Hygrophila in the market. Then this is a source of Trivruta. In Ayurveda it is used. So 4 different types of botanicals are available in the market. This is Adividayam. The first one is authentic source. The other 2 which are available in the market is not from Aconitum veterophyllum. It is from some other source, Cryptococcine spiralis. So that is sold in the market. It is cheaper because Aconitum veterophyllum is very costly. 100 gram itself they charge 1500 or something. So this is sold. This is available in South India. So that is sold. And this deteriorated drug. So one drug which we have Akrakaram. In the market, if you see, it is with full of fungus. So such a drug should not be used in for internal purpose. They have a lot of aflatoxins. So if you consume them, definitely it will cause liver toxicity. So these aflatoxins are never considered. They are very dangerous. So most of the herbal materials are with a lot of fungal load. That has to be taken care. So this example I have already shown, like Androgaphis paniculata. Aerial part, whole plant should be there, but you can see only twigs, only stem is there. There is no leaf in the drug. Otherwise, it is with a lot of foreign matters. So that has to be taken care of. This is Kanduparangi, again Premna herbacea to be used, but this is Premna herbacea, but Clerodendron serratum never comes in the market. Again this Mucuna pruriens, if you survey the market, so many type of colored seeds are available as Mucuna pruriens. So which one is authentic Mucuna, we have to establish. And this is this clue is given by our Chelladurai sir. There this Borassus flabilifer, male flower is sold as Gajapipali. In market, in the North Indian market, as Gajapipali Syndapsis officinalis is not available, the male flowers of Borassus flabilifer is sold. So I have verified it from online sources also. Only Borassus flabilifer is available as Gajapipali. These are some of my studies wherein we differentiated 2 very closely related species using HPTLC. Chemical fingerprinting to differentiate allied species. So 2 cinnamon species, the Beringialae which is sold in the market, it is not actually Cinnamomum tamala. Other species of Cinnamomum verum, Cinnamomum malabatrum, all these are available in the market as Tejpath or Beringialae. So just by taking petiole of the leaf, 3 species, we did a HPTLC and GC and confirmed that these are different botanicals but not Cinnamomum tamala. Again there is a problem with the botanical source of Musta, that is Cyprus rotundus. There is another species called Cirpus grossus that is very commonly marketed. And another problem is with one of our important drug, that is Cinnamomum whitei. Cinnamomum whitei is official as Sirunagapu in our pharmacopoeia. But the problem is Cinnamomum whitei is already endangered. So its status is endangered. But whatever is we see in the market, I strongly think that it's not from Cinnamomum whitei. It is from mixture of so many other cinnamon species. It can be from Cinnamomum verum, Cinnamomum tamala, Cinnamomum malabatrum, Cinnamomum sulphuratum. All these flower buds are collected and sold in the market. All these mixtures come as Sirunagapu, but it is not Cinnamomum whitei. So just here, just I wanted to show that same problem in Kabasura culinary ingredients. Again, so many botanicals are traded in the name of Vattatiruppi. There are more than one botanical, and Mulli also, as Dr. Arvind explained, Mulli also more than one, 2-3 botanicals are traded. So either we have to stick on to pharmacopoeial composition, or we have to change pharmacopoeial composition. So in pharmacopoeia something is mentioned, but whatever is marketed is different. So that has to be sorted out. Same problem with the Nilavembu Kudineer also. In this vetiver and vilamichver, as per formulary both are same. If you refer Siddha formulary, vetiver, they have given C vilamichver. Both botanical are same. So Nilavembu Kudineer have 9 ingredients, but if we do as per AFI, SFI, it's only 8 ingredients. So that has to be sorted out. So we have to create awareness on importance of true identity of ingredient at student level. So from the UG, PG scholars who are going to be doctors in future, they should have good awareness on this misleading identity of herbal drugs. Only then you can expect good quality in your, when you practice medicine. You should know that many of the drugs available in the market has to be evaluated for its quality. And we should raise the standard of testing methods. Currently pharmacopoeial testings are very simple. We don't use too much of sophistication into it. We have simpler testing methods. We should modify and go for higher standards, hyphenated tests in pharmacopoeial as well as we should hyphenate techniques for deriving standards. We should introduce newer accurate methods to herbal drug testing. So we have to adopt more sophisticated, more accurate result giving tests into our pharmacopoeia. We should raise the regulatory requirement for marketing herbal drugs. So as per GMP, we don't need too much of clarity. So we should have more stringent marketing regulations, so that we will get best efficacious, safe medicine in the market. Thank you. I thank NMPB and SEED for giving me this opportunity. Thank you one and all for patient listening. So in case any such clarification, we issue authentication certificates at Siddha Central Research Institute. For all the scholars, we give authentication, for industries also we give authentication certificates. So you can contact Dr. P. Satyarajesh sir, who is in charge of our institute, in case of any such authentication certificate request. Mostly in a short time, we will also do this DNA barcoding. That can also be part of your PG or PhD research program. So that can also be outsourced to us. Thank you.